Get us to the Prime Minister, then we'll talk all about the Chipko movement. You'll get fame. We won't say anything. We're in very backward areas. The government has put us back. The environment guys has put us back. We're very forward in environment. But bloody thieves, selfish, greedy guys have put us back. You've heard us and progressed. We've not seen any change. We're here on the street, at the crossroad of the movement. And we've been projected all over the world. Everybody with their video cameras flaunted us, messed up our minds, tired out our lips. But we've got no benefit.
The glorious Himalaya. This spiritual base of ancient Vedic Hinduism is also home to its mountain people. By virtue of the very terrain they survive on, the mountain people are enveloped in isolation and remoteness. In the Himalayan region of the northern state of Uttar Pradesh, this is a part of Uttarakhand, comprising 8 districts of Kumaon-Garhwal and Kumaon. Shepherds symbolize the intricate blend of mountain life, where no single economic activity could support life in this terrain. Local inhabitants have lived by a combination of shepherding for wool in the upper pastures, forest-related activities, and agriculture. Unfortunately, in recent times, the balances in the lives of hill folk like Madan Singh and his wife Sumangala have changed. A combination of economic activities had once kept the mountain people self-sufficient. But a process of change began many years ago when external elements imposed systems of control. With the Himalayan range in the north and the Shivaliks in the south, Uttarakhand remained largely unaffected by external political influences until the British annexed the region in the mid-19th century. The annexation brought new regulations on land and forest use and the Begar system, which turned the hill folk into unpaid porters for colonial officials. Such intrusions laid the foundation for future social protests. The harmonious beauty of Uttarakhand, with neat farmlands and villages, was incomprehensible to foreigners. The nearby river, terrace fields halfway up the spur enriched with nutrients from the forests above. An idyllic picture. The peasant community of Uttarakhand are largely Hindus. The Hinduism here is less orthodox than in other parts of India. The absence of caste barriers has been the basis for solidarity, the use of resources being the common thread linking the community with the forest and land. A combination of economic activities related to these resources has required the full participation of women, quite unlike the male-dominated agriculture of Europe at that time. In the past 2 centuries, the mechanisms of this self-sufficient peasant community have undergone stress-ridden change. Ecological degradation has affected the soil and agricultural yield, leading to poor living standards and many social changes. At the same time, people in nearly 75% of the 15,000 villages are still far away from motorable roads and district headquarters, marginalizing hill folk from alternative opportunities of income earning. In this Dev Bhumi, or land of the gods, hill people were once proud to live by the maxim that they never needed to buy grain. Their living needs were comfortably met by good harvests and wool-related income. Even as late as the mid-19th century, this region of bounty evoked poetic responses. In 1817, Thomas Skinner, a British military adventurer, said of the Himalaya. We entered an enchanted garden. Blackberries and raspberries hung temptingly from brows of the broken crags, while our path was strewed with strawberries. In every direction were blooming heather, violets and jasmine, with innumerable rose trees in full bearing. I have beheld nearly all the celebrated scenery of Europe, which poets and painters have immortalized, and of which all the tourists in the world are enamored. But I have seen it surpassed in these unknown regions. In colonial times, wood from Himalayan forests were the single biggest resource for supporting an expanding railway network. Roads were needed to facilitate the extraction of trees from inaccessible areas. Europe had already experienced the impact of such extraction. Large amounts of timber were burnt in furnaces, which made stained glass for grand churches. It had led to widespread deforestation. In post-colonial times, the war with China led to further rapid development of Himalayan roads. The devastating effects of intrusive tourist-oriented roadways in the Alps have been quoted in connection with the Himalaya, a mountain range which is even younger and geologically more fragile. But despite an awareness of the frightening consequences, the unplanned rampant process continued. The roads brought the forest closer to the modern world. It was a matter of time before the forest receded away from the roads. In 1864, the British set up the first forest department in a hurry to cater to colonial needs. In just 16 years, between 1869 and 1885, nearly 6.5 million railway sleepers were taken out of such areas. A grotesque impact was visible within a century of exploitation. It is no wonder that Himalayan deforestation attracts such widespread attention today.
जंगलात जो विभाग है, वन विभाग जो है ना,
The forest department started commercial felling in the beginning of the century, and they started to put an end to the traditional rights of the people. So people were facing difficulties.
उनको लगातार प्रतिबंधित करना शुरू कर दिया, तो लोगों को दिक्कतें तो हो रही थी.
And when there was persistent suppression of rights for agricultural implements, wood for building homes, then there was a kind of anger against the forest department.
बढ़ता रहा तो वन विभाग के खिलाफ लोगों में एक आक्रोश जैसा तो था.
The seemingly inexhaustible Himalayan forest, which was a resource for community survival, was converted into a focal point of commercial utility. The concept of traditional rights arose only in the face of a system of controls. In the face of protests, a British bureaucrat claimed that the British had the right of conquest, against which there was no appeal. Commercial felling continued well into post-colonial times. Nearly 6,500 hectares of forest were felled between 1959 and 1969 alone. Between 1972 and 1991, the situation of degraded forests have further declined by 64%. In the face of such devastation, women, the main players of the hill economy, were to pay an inhuman price for survival. In the past, women needed to walk barely half a kilometer to reach a forest. Studies show that now they walk anywhere from 5 to 13 kilometers to collect fuel, wood and fodder. No wonder while arranging marriages, families have begun to look for a boy in a village with a forest nearby. In a system of new regulations, the dependence of hill folk on forest resources was relegated to a status of no importance. Now it seems like a revelation that local inhabitants need the forests. With no alternative energy resources, just the average fuel wood requirement for a family is between 10 to 20 kilos. Hill folk depend on forests for agricultural implements, building homes, roots and fruits, medicinal herbs, fuel wood, fodder, leaves for making cups and plates. When hill folk lost rights to the forests, their lives changed. The women of Uttarakhand persevere with their daily lives in the most adverse circumstances, whatever their age or physical condition. Apart from irrigating canals and digging wells, hill women contribute to a range of work, including domestic chores. In agricultural labor alone, their contribution has been estimated to be over 60%. The burden for women has increased due to other factors as well. The population has increased by 119% in 100 years, leading to overuse of resources. Degradation and reduced crop yields have forced men to look for alternative sources of income away from home. Those who stay behind idle away the hours, often drinking out of sheer frustration. Such social stresses gave rise to an awareness about basic issues. For instance, men became aware of the desperate need for employment generation. Influenced by Gandhians like British-born Sarlaben, hill women even held anti-alcoholism agitations in the mid-1960s. It was in this backdrop that a cooperative, the Dasholi Gram Swarajya Mandal, was set up in 1964. It was based in the spirit of the Sarvodaya movement, a movement based on effort and contribution of land and labor for the benefit of all. Initially, the DGSM focused on generating employment for the local youth, running a unit for resin and turpentine, manufacturing agricultural implements, and selling medicinal herbs. But by 1970, DGSM was to spiral into a major ecological movement. In 1970, torrential rains lashed the region. The Alaknanda River was clogged. It rose 60 feet and burst its banks. Water inundated 100 square kilometers of land. Silt and sparking boulders rolled down in a flood of terror. 6 metal bridges broke. 10 kilometers of roads were washed away. Villages were wiped out forever. Hundreds drowned. A mass movement spiraled under DGSM workers and leaders like Chandi Prasad Bhatt, once a transport company clerk who was deeply influenced by Sarvodaya philosophy.
1970 में जब अलकनंदा में बाढ़ आई तो उसी समय
When there was the Alaknanda flood in 1970, we had decided that there should be no tree felling in this sensitive area. And when we got the news of trees being marked in the areas of the Sholi 6, 7, beyond RENI, we told the then Chief Minister, H.N. Bahuguna, in very clear words, that if trees are felled on this scale, the Alaknanda will rise in fury over the region again. That is how it was in 1971. It was in 72 and 73 also. So we were quite aware of this. But the course of action became clear in 1973, when the Chipko movement started in Mandal and Phata Rampur.
एक्शन का तरीका क्या हो ये तो उजागर हुआ 1973 में जब मंडल फाटा रामपुर में चिपको आंदोलन चला.
The story behind the birth of Chipko, or the Hug the Trees movement, is based on dichotomies. Local cultivators use the wood of the ash tree for their agricultural implements. In 1973, while the hill folk were denied access to cut such trees, a sports goods company was given a contract to slash the same trees in the Mandal forest. The situation escalated into a persistent, mass-based call for protecting the forests of Uttarakhand. Between 1973 and 1985, the echoes could be heard across the valleys in the villages and forests of Vyali, Tawaghat, Badiargarh, Dungri, Pulna, Henwal, and many more. There were also demonstrations led by Chandi Prasad Bhatt, Sundarlal Bahuguna, and various committed youth leaders. It led to a growing demand for change in the colonial, anti-people, anti-forest policy, which had unfortunately spilled over into post-colonial independent India. Policymakers and foresters were not ready for change. They were entrenched in an overpowering revenue-generating system that had thrived since 1864. In the early 1970s, while Chipko activists persevered with their forest vigils and chalked out action plans, the Forest Department was resorting to subterfuge. On one occasion, in Phata Rampur, the men were enticed away on the pretext of a film screening. It was to enable laborers of the by now infamous sports goods company to enter a forest and cut trees. Returning disappointed from a screening, which never took place, the people found that 5 trees had been felled. They set up round-the-clock vigils and ensured the logs could not be taken away. Later, official documents were acknowledging that the corrupt practices and overpowering behavior of the Forest Department had distanced them from the hill folk.
As we went into the forest, we were wondering how to save it. We sat down and shouted out, "Long live the Chipko movement." The contractor was seated beneath the tree. The contractor sat under the tree. He called me, "Child, come here." And the contractor, Uncle Anand Singh, was there. So he said, "Take these 2,000 rupees and leave the forest." So I said, 2,000 we'll gobble up by tomorrow, and our jungles will be harmed. And the little plants which are growing, they'll be destroyed. We went to the DFO. The DFO, sir, threatened me, saying the forests are mine. What are you up to? We won't let you cut anything. We said, "Okay, sir, we won't cut. What dries and falls on the ground, that will light our fires. In the town, there are heaters and gas stoves. All facilities are in the town. But in the village, a fire can be lit only when dry wood falls. And if you cut everything, saplings will die, soil will wash away, and there'll be landslides." And he said, No. We'll use police to load the wood and carry it away on horseback." So I said, "But we won't let you cut any trees." He said, "What will you do?" I said, "All the women will go into the forest." "You," he said, "I'll impose the force of police. Have you caned?" I said, "Okay, you impose the force of police, I'll impose the force of villagers. Air, water and soil belongs to no one," I said. "And the jungle is ours, which we are protecting."
Kalavati Devi represents the new age women of Uttarakhand at the grassroots level. In village BACHHER, she has headed the village forest council of one panchayat. She prefers not holding office. She says it gives her more time to participate in tasks like monitoring the village forest boundaries. Kalavati Devi and Ruli Devi, the present chief of the village forest council, are among the many Uttarakhand women who have developed a close interaction with the Dasholi Gram Swarajya Mandal. Village BACHHER has a nursery which is monitored by the DGSM. The villagers maintain these plantlings till they are ready for distribution in afforestation programs. In the villages of Uttarakhand, the Van Panchayats or village forest councils symbolize the decentralized initiatives for forest issues. It has been indicated that the success of the Van Panchayats began with the participation of women. Bound in traditional gender attitudes, women were initially not welcome. Women have now succeeded in eliminating men from the decision-making process. But the women welcome the interest and support of DGSM workers who have helped in widening their horizons. Because of trees, people have developed self-confidence about issues of water, their health, their education. Their willpower is increased, especially of the women who've been on the forefront, those who never stepped out of their homes. Now, They think about their all-round development. They speak out, and when necessary, agitate. This in itself is an important fact.
करती हैं, तो ये एक अपने आप में महत्वपूर्ण बात है.
Up at 6,500 feet, this is RENI village. In 1974, it became part of environmental history. Bali Devi was about 10 years old then.
You know, the Chipko movement had spread to the village. At that time, Gaura Devi said, "Don't just go, first go and watch." Then she said few words, not more. "It's Chipko movement time. Let's go." That's it. Then she told me to go back to the village. I was very small, you know. Actually, I had gone to fill water. I was near the tap when I saw those men all going across from there.
Bali Devi saw the men with their tools and luggage entering the forest. It was an immediate crisis, but she never knew that subtle plans had been afoot long before. Chandi Prasad Bhatt was requested to stay back in a nearby town to meet the conservator of forests. It was a pretext to keep him away that day. All the men of RENI village were also called away to receive a long overdue land reimbursement at the district headquarters. Gaura Devi, head of the RENI Women's Council, could never have imagined what role she must play now. After failing at Mandal and Phata Rampur, eyes were set on the RENI forest. When lumbermen advanced with the contract to fell about 2,500 trees, there were no men in the village. Only women, children, and the aged. Leaving their looms and hearts behind, they all rushed to stop the felling.
The day we went, that day I was working on the rug. Mother-in-law said, "They've come." Others called out, "Sister, let's go, they've come." I left my weaving. That time, the whole village, women, kids, elders, everyone went up the mountain. There where you can see a cave, they had camped there. We went there. Some laborers were eating bread and snacks. Others, they had put the water for boiling rice when we reached.
For that one night, the task was not easy for the women. One group stalked towards the lumbermen, daring them to axe their bodies before they could axe a tree. Another group of women broke the connecting bridge, making it impossible to cross either way. Before large numbers from neighboring villages joined them the next day, it was a harrowing time for these women.
The forest guys were shouting at us, "We'll put you in jail. Why are you talking?" We women lay down, didn't let the forest guys go ahead. They said, "What do you think? We'll strip you naked and send you." That's how they cursed us. But we didn't leave the bridge and lay down. The others, they forced the other guys back. "Go on, you lumbermen, go. Leave the jungle forest. Leave the axe. Save the forest." That's the song we sang. "Come, sisters, come. We'll save the forest. We'll grab and bring the axe and saw. We'll save our forests."
When the RENI villagers succeeded in saving nearly 2,500 trees, it spearheaded a reaction at the national level. Ultimately, the entire upper catchment area of the Alaknanda was declared environmentally sensitive, needing protection. A 10-year ban on commercial felling was imposed. Subsequently, since 1980, commercial felling has been banned in all forests of the Uttarakhand, while traditional rights of hill folk on forest produce were maintained. Govind Singh Rawat, the Communist Party worker, has been totally involved with the issue of forest rights from the inception of the movement. Today, he's very disappointed with the implementation of the policy. The suspension of nearly 50 forest department staffers for conniving to cut nearly 6,000 trees in the 1990s bears testimony to his complaints.
What has happened is the absolute opposite of our aim. They achieved or solved only one thing: stop the system of big contracts. In its place, they started their own contracting by starting a forest corporation. And the Forest Corporation is doing exactly what contractors used to do. Callously cutting trees, rolling and dragging them through the forest, taking it and throwing it, making the same sleeper logs with the same Nepali laborers, filling trucks and driving away down. It has been clarified in the 1980 Forest Conservation Act that there are no controls on the traditional rights of the people. They've not been banned. But today, if you want to lay a half-inch pipe under the drinking water scheme, or you want to make a 3 feet wide road, then the Forest Department officials say you can't, because they say the forests are ours. And the Forest Conservation Act has fully put a stop to all your rights. This wrong method of interpretation can have a bad impact on the conservation of forests. The people of Uttarakhand still face the impact of degradation as landslides continue to affect their lives. But as late as the early 1990s, the state government asked for a revision of commercial felling rights with the argument of scientific forestry so that the jungles may thrive. Local hill folk respond with a simple query. Didn't the jungles thrive before scientific forestry came along? We believe the forest should be the people's own, like farmland is the people's own, like people cultivate land, and in reality there is the agriculture ministry, but they have no ownership on the farmlands. Similarly, there should be no ownership of the Forest Department on forests. People should be the owners, and the Forest Department should play the same role as the Agriculture Department. Ex-school teachers, servicemen, and some local government officials, along with women, actively participate in eco-development programs organized by the DGSM. The fact that women often plant trees which fruit long after lifetime reflects the essence of the movement. A scientific analysis has proved that the plant-linked survival rate of Chipko-related programs is about 85%. The Forest Department survival rate of about 16% seems incongruous. The Indian Space Research Organization states that the maximum forest gain in the Chamoli district of Uttarakhand has been 10 years after the most active periods of Chipko afforestation. Chipko activists have never needed to hug a tree. The mere threat of the word has been sufficient. Even so, a confrontationist agitating stand had to shift over into constructive eco-development. The Sholi Gram Swarajya Mandal has succeeded in spreading its main message of putting humans at the center of nature. It remains to be seen how this ecological movement, originally rooted in ideas of local employment generation, moves into the next phase of modernization, to bring a marginalized mountain people into the mainstream of development.
Nakata, nakata, tiraka jagari, janyo mata.